Welcome back, one and all, as we close out another week here on the Damage Report with me, John Iadarola, and Brett still in Japan. He'll be back, I think, next week, perhaps. Maybe he'll stay in Japan this time. Maybe he's bought a home. But for now, Woz is here. Wosny Lambre, how's it going?
I'm good, man. Happy to be on with you guys as always.
We're glad to have you here. Always glad to talk politics with you. We actually have, this has been like the most hockey-ish week in Damage Report history, and we have a little bit more hockey talk. We'll talk about that later on, but just in general, are you a Winter Olympics person? Are you a hockey person?
I'm not. I'm neither. I will watch hockey if it's on, and I definitely love playoff hockey, which I think is like amongst the best sports viewing that anybody can experience. But I'm not generally a figure skating, skiing, bobsledding, curling. I'm not generally watching that stuff.
Curling I find a little bit interesting because like I feel like if I was at a bar and they had curling that you could do, I'd do it. But yeah, for the most part, the Winter Olympics is full of things that I think are cool, but I don't need to watch. It's like I don't want to insult it. It just looks kind of similar after a while. Like even you,
especially the curling.
Yeah. I don't know. Like the going around, like the skiing around the poles is cool, but like I saw it. I don't need to see it again. I don't know. Like when they go really far, like off a jump, and they're like,
yeah,
that's cool. But I feel like I saw it that one time, and I feel
and it's like, yeah, we're good.
Yeah,
we're good
to go. Amazing, and I would die if I tried to do it. But even like, congratulations to the hockey teams. But like, you'll watch playoff hockey. No, I don't want to. I like the Mighty Ducks. I'm a fan of the Mighty Ducks. That's it.
If you go to a sports bar during the playoffs for hockey with a bunch of hockey fans, I think you will learn to enjoy the experience because they're so into it.
Maybe.
And it is very intense.
Yeah. No, I could see that. I
could understand sitting on your couch with your dog or something. And it's like, I'm good.
There's only a few I watch. This is like sports I really like playing golf. In the last year I've gotten into it, but I don't like watching it. Like I don't really watch much volleyball, even though that's my favorite sport ever. I don't know. The only thing I'm really watching right now is, are you familiar with Unrivaled?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, so their playoffs are
basketball situation. Yeah,
the 3v3. So the final regular season games are tonight, and then the playoffs start. That I'm excited to watch. But But anyway, we'll have more hockey later on. I just remembered that we are supposed to talk about politics eventually, so I guess we'll do that. But anyway, Woz, thank you as always for being here and for filling in.
Of course.
For Brett, we will of course be doing garbage people of the week in the aftermath, and it's always fun to get someone other than me and Brett to get to choose one. So can't wait to see who was chose. But that said, we do have media. We have news to talk about. We have media news to talk about. CNN might not be long for this world, I guess. We've got Epstein news to talk about. The Republican attempt to make the Epstein story about Hillary Clinton of all people doesn't really seem to have worked out that well. And then we've got economic news. So JD Vance wants to assure you that everything is going well in a couple of key areas. We've got the numbers that show that they're not. And we're gonna be talking a little bit more about inflation. There were some bold claims made during the State of the Union about that. Turns out those two fairly disconnected from reality. So, and then we're gonna have a little bit of fun to end the show. Zoran Mamdani, he understands Donald Trump so well, and he had this great moment with him that I can't wait to talk about. So with all that said, hit the like button, share the stream, send us your comments, your tweets, your super chats, and all that stuff. And with that said, Woz, are you ready to do this thing?
Let's do it.
Okay, let's do it. Let's jump into this. After a whole bunch of back and forth, stretching back months and months and months, Paramount apparently has actually won the bidding war for Warner Brothers after Netflix refused to increase their offer to the fairly ludicrous amount that Paramount, for some reason, was willing to pay for it and had endless funds with which to do so, had offered. Now, that doesn't mean that Paramount is going to buy Warner Brothers. In theory, Donald Trump and the Trump administration, as if it's in any way independent, could decide that they don't want his billionaire buddies to buy Warner Brothers and CNN and turn it into a MAGA-friendly outlet. Maybe he'll have an issue with it. Maybe they'll be worried about media consolidation or something. So fingers very much crossed for that. But we'll talk more about the CNN part of it a little bit later on. For now, I want to talk about the actual dealing of how we got to this point. So Netflix pulled the plug on its deal soon after the Warner Brothers board of directors said it had determined that Paramount's $31 per share offer for the entire company was superior to Netflix's bid just to buy Warner Brothers movie and television studios and the HBO Max streaming service. This follows earlier this week when Paramount submitted the revised bid, totaling about $81 billion, which is far more than it itself is worth. Aren't businesses fun? Anyway, the offer included an increased $7 billion termination fee that Paramount would pay if the transaction failed to close because of regulatory concerns. Paramount said it would foot the bill for the $2.8 billion breakup fee Warner will now owe Netflix. So $81 billion and nearly $10 billion on the line if all these deals fall apart. It's just endless stupid money that they have to spend on that. And we'll talk later on about why that might be. For now, Netflix put out a statement saying, "We've always been disciplined, and at the price required to match Paramount Skydance's latest offer, the deal is no longer financially attractive, so we are declining to match. This transaction was always a nice to have at the right price, not a must have at any price." And the reason that they would likely want it is there's a lot of IP that's all balled up with Warner Brothers that Netflix would definitely like to have. As a result of this, Paramount will not only get Warner Brothers and HBO, but also CNN, TNT, TBS, the Food Network, just a whole hell of a lot of stuff. And like I said, Woz, we'll talk about what might happen with CNN later on. But we should also acknowledge that while there's serious concerns about Paramount and them being backed by Trump-friendly billionaire money, them buying it, there were also concerns about Netflix buying it as well. A lot of people were concerned that this could effectively ruin even more of what remains of the movie industry, that Netflix really doesn't like putting movies in theaters, so they've already been hurt so much, they might have been hurt even more. People are concerned about the consolidation that could lead to lots of jobs being lost. So there was no big win on any side of this, but what do you make of the way it appears to have ended?
Yeah, I mean, to echo what you just said, John, there were no good outcomes here, quote unquote good outcomes. One is Netflix, which, again, if you care about movies being in theaters, like that's not Netflix's bag. It was really just a content library play in order to consolidate the TV business in ways that they've already done, but more so now with even more and better content than they currently have. And then you have a Nepo baby in Larry Ellison's kid, who has no proven track record in entertainment at all. There's no proof out there that this guy is gonna be an effective, CEO of a movie studio or a television cable company, right? There's no evidence that this kid knows what he's doing. It's just that his dad is extremely rich and is footing the bill. What this means, like every other consolidation, a bunch of people gonna lose their jobs. Less movies will come out as a result of this, less TV shows, just a shrinking of the business and a shrinking of opportunities for dozens, hundreds, thousands of creators and craftspeople and all the people that make up the entertainment industry here in Los Angeles, New York, and beyond. And so, yeah, it sucks all around.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, what I would love to see, obviously you'd have to message around it the right way, but if I were, the next Democratic president or whatever, and I wasn't like a Gavin Newsom who's probably fine with all this or whatever, I would be like, I am going to actually produce the next golden age in America. And the way I'm gonna do it is I'm gonna double down on the thing that produced our amazing American economy back before it was hamstrung by all these billionaires and consolidation. We are going to focus on competition. So I'm gonna be breaking up these companies into 1,000 pieces. If they can consolidate over the course of the past 20, 30 years, we can reverse that. We can make them sell off HBO and we can make them sell off, Warner Brothers, and we can break out the TV and the movie divisions and everything and inspire them to actually compete with each other, to produce better products, to hire more people. It has been done before after periods of massive consolidation, after periods where the wealthy had gotten way too much control over our politics more than 100 years ago. We can do that again. And I think there's gonna be a lot of people who will be desperate for it when they see this. And even just for like, you're probably not working for one of these companies. You're probably not gonna lose your job. But what do you think it's gonna do to both the quality, but also the price when there's even less competition than there already is? It's definitely going to go up, and it would have gone up if Netflix had won this too. All of their prices just constantly go up. And so something needs to be done, but we need a leader who's gonna be willing to actually stand up against them. But that said, in the short term, this is a major change for Warner Brothers and for a lot of these companies. So let's jump now to this. Warner Brothers employees were apparently shocked at what happened this week with Paramount and Netflix, waking up to a new reality where they might be bought out by Paramount. And that means a lot of them are not gonna have jobs for much longer. One exec inside of Warner Brothers said that the news was a gut punch and said it's obviously very upsetting to employees. Employees at the studio were said to be holding out hope that Netflix would come up with a new bid to outmaneuver Paramount Skydance's superior proposal, and thought they'd at least have 4 days to keep their fingers crossed. But of course, that didn't happen. And the issue, to me at least, I'm not a business person, I'm not an expert or whatever. It seems like Netflix was making decisions based on how it affected their business. What is it worth to them to own these IPs? What does it cost them to acquire it? Paramount has some of that, but then it has all of these concerns that really have nothing to do with business. It has to do with, as Woz has pointed out earlier, a billionaire Nepo baby's desire to just control everything, their desire to exert political control over some of these Netflix, over some of these IP, the sub companies that they're now buying. The fact that they have a much closer relationship with Donald Trump. I don't see Netflix matching it, because if they had put more in, Paramount would have just put more. They have effectively unlimited money with which to pursue this, and they're not being constrained by normal capitalistic concerns. And so that was always going to be an issue. Paramount execs are super thrilled about this. One said there were tears of exhaustion and happiness. And at Netflix, where the streamer announced shortly before 3 p.m. that it was giving up on Warner Brothers, there was a lot of instant rumbling in the halls. There were audible sounds of whoa and other surprise noises emanating from offices and cubicles. Now, of course, Netflix will go on, and they're still gargantuan, and I'm sure they'll turn to try to acquire something else after this. It's really more Warner Brothers that I think many of us have to be worried about. And the biggest issue is just how many jobs will even exist after this. There's this thing going around, this idea that 1 + 1 will still equal 1, that if you have overlap between the people who already work at Paramount and the people who work at Warner Brothers, Paramount's not just like gonna be cool and let both of them keep their job. They're gonna cut as many as possible. And all of this is, of course, happening at the same time that every one of these execs at all of these companies is desperately trying to figure out what ChatGPT prompt is gonna let them eject all the remaining humans from the companies anyway. And so it's just like, it is gonna be so hard to maintain a job at these places. And insiders say they expect thousands of employees are going to be fired. We've seen that already with CBS, lots of people being fired. And I expect to see even more of it, Woz. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, that's just every single merger. That's what happens. There's no exceptions to that rule. Like you said, there's just going to be a bunch of overlap. And so, a lot of these companies are going to shed employees. And, another thing that folks need to understand, this isn't gonna work out long term for Larry Ellison's kid. It's just not. The reason why Warner Brothers is for sale is because they were hemorrhaging money. These studios and entertainment platforms, for reasons nobody will ever understand, decided to listen to Wall Street and pursue streaming as a business to challenge Netflix, and they all failed and they all lost and they all burned a lot of money in the process. Like Paramount Plus sucks. Okay.
Yeah.
I like HBO Max, but again, like, these guys didn't realize that they were getting into the tech business with no tech background. Like, Netflix is a tech company. Like, they've mastered streaming because that's their bag. They haven't mastered content. By the way, they don't make content that's better than HBO or Disney or any of the content producing studios. But what they do know how to do is figure out how to keep users on their platform. They figure out UI and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That the other companies just couldn't compete. And so they were all hemorrhaging money off of this. And in the process, they blew up their golden goose, which was the cable bundle, where people were just like, why do I need a cable bundle if I could just stream this stuff for cheap? And in the process, they blew up their own business, chasing Wall Street, talking about, you guys need to go challenge Netflix, completely failed. And that's why we're in this position. And to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if in 5 to 10 years, Netflix was buying off pieces of this Paramount Warner Brothers monstrosity, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and probably cheaper at that point.
Yeah, oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I agree with most of your points. I disagree about Netflix's content. I think Is It Cake is pretty great. So I think they've nailed content. I actually kind of like it. But and the issue with them always is that they cancel stuff that should continue. The Dark Crystal. Obviously, we should be on like season 10 of The Floor Is Lava, but regrettably they killed that too. So yeah, no, there's definitely concerns to go around. And yeah, I don't know why they all thought that they could make it, that we would just subscribe to 30 different streaming services for $500 total a month. I'm still subscribed to multiple, and some I want to keep. Some that I like, I'm not even like, I don't have HBO Max right now, even though there is stuff on there that I like. But yeah, I had Paramount Plus at one point. I didn't need to keep that. I don't like Peacock for the most part. I had it briefly because the WWE was on there. But like Netflix is like doesn't have Stranger Things anymore. I kind of feel like, although I'm probably gonna Google and find out that it's owned by Paramount, I just want to get like, I just want to have Pluto TV and that's it. And I'll just watch old episodes of Star Trek Voyager or whatever. There's kids shows on there. They play Rush Hour from time to time. Why am I putting so much? You know, library books are free. Why don't we just put like a couple years into no more video content? Let's just read some goddamn books because this is a mess.
Yeah, I'm subscribed to literally all of them. I don't think there's I probably don't have like Stars or something like that. But in terms of Paramount Plus, Hulu, Netflix, HBO Max.
Hulu's got Hulu is replaced. Netflix used to be the one that had the most shows I watched. Now it is Hulu. Actually,
Hulu. ESPN is cracking me over the head for $30 a month.
Yeah.
I don't have Disney Plus because I don't have kids and I don't care about Disney's products. But I think Disney Plus might be the only thing that I don't have.
We watched quite a bit on Disney,
and I've never done the math because I don't want to be depressed.
No, you don't want to do that. Yeah, I just remembered that I have ESPN Plus because WWE PLEs are on there now. I need to cancel that probably, but yeah, it's just a mess, and I don't like it. There's some good ones. Apple has got some good content or whatever, but there's just too much. Okay, I definitely think Hulu's number one right now. It used to be Netflix for me, but now it's Hulu. Anyway, okay, I obviously was delighting in being able to talk just about like media and entertainment, but it is time to come back to the political ramifications of this. So let's jump into it.
So we have some breaking news internationally that affects everybody I'm looking at right now in the studio. Moments ago, Netflix said it is declining to raise its offer for the purchase of Warner Brothers Studios and HBO, following the Warner Brothers Discovery Board's determination that Paramount, which is not just going for Warner Brothers Studios and HBO, but also the whole enchilada, including us here at CNN.
Yeah, so that was a little bit awkward, maybe for some in the room, that they're deciding, oh, we're probably gonna be bought by someone. And they were gonna be bought by somebody, but not necessarily a company that's headed up by a guy that seems like he's probably going to be willing to do quite a bit to remake CNN specifically. Now, he would likely, the Ellison family and Larry Ellison specifically, likely would have done it anyway. But even though he already is like favorable and friendly towards Donald Trump also is an opportunity, bearing in mind that he despises CNN and always has. He could potentially say to them, either explicitly or not, hey, you know, maybe we don't let you do this merger unless you make certain assurances about what you're gonna do with CNN. Now, some people maybe who like were in a coma for the last year and a half might think that's going too far, but like him and Brendan Carr have been willing to be pretty damn explicit about the manipulation they wanna see their allies make of media, firing people like Stephen Colbert and Jimmy Kimmel that they don't like, literally doing investigations against the women on The View. I mean, this is pretty much constant now. And what it seems to me, and I think a lot of people is we saw what happened in Hungary, and we know about when an autocrat takes power. If they have money, if they're friends with the people with money, it can be very appealing to just have your buddies buy up all of the media, shut down those pesky journalists who might investigate you or have angered you in the past. And I feel like we've already had multiple aspects of that with CBS being utterly neutered. You have not only like Mark Zuckerberg bowing down to Trump, letting him do whatever he wants. You have Elon Musk, who gave Trump like $1/3 billion. He buys up Twitter. Now that's no longer a place that people can necessarily trust. They take over TikTok. I mean, it's both social media and the actual media. Like, obviously there's independent media, and maybe in the long run this benefits us, or I don't know, if CNN gets turned into MAGA, maybe it benefits MS Now or something. But I really do feel like this is a dark period in America where more and more media is being either like they're preemptively surrendering because of the threats of lawsuits, or they're just being bought up by the oligarchs who are friends with the administration. What do you think?
I tend to not want to sound the alarm on this stuff, because the truth of the matter is, John, people are watching the damage report. People are watching Breaking Points. People are watching, for better or for worse, Joe Rogan and getting their politics from there. Like, CNN is not very influential. This isn't 1999. What I will say with people, powerful people do watch CNN, and so that does matter. There is value to the idea that CEOs and people that can push a button on stuff that affects a lot of people's lives do watch this show, but their viewership just isn't there. And also, I would point people to what's going on with CBS right now. Has that been some boon, or are they like climbing up the charts and leading the charge of a right-wing revolution? They're not. These places just don't freaking matter. In part, like the fact that they don't matter is part of why people like the Ellisons can even get their grubby little hands on them. Right? Like, there's a reason these things are just getting spun off and nobody gives a damn, because they don't actually matter. The people watching CBS are about to die, John. I'm sorry. They're old as dirt. I'm sorry. Like, it's just the truth. And CNN, although, look, I'm sure they write nice checks to some of our friends to do appearances, and I hope that continues, right? For the sake of our friends. But in terms of the news media ecosystem, like, I don't think anything will happen, man, if CNN ceases to be as the little bit of relevance that they have left. And also, again, this isn't business. Like, this idea that you're gonna gear your entire strategy at a network that ostensibly you're supposed to be running as a business towards Donald Trump, who's 80 years old and is not gonna be president forever, and you're still gonna own this company, and you're making enemies out of people that are eventually gonna be in power. Like, it's just,
that's true.
It's not business. This just shows you how, I'm sorry, they're just stupid. Like this is stupid if you think, gearing your business decisions towards this one guy and his whims. Like, it just shows that they're not very savvy operators, to be honest. And buying TikTok and turning CBS into an Israel propaganda factory is not gonna help them in the ratings. They're not gonna gain traction with younger people. They're just making themselves more irrelevant. And so it's hard for me to see the death rattle of CNN as anything other than a natural order of things as people migrate to shows like yours, John, and other TYT stuff, and all kinds of other independent media where people are getting their news from these days.
I agree in part. I disagree in part. So I agree with you that it's not a good business decision. Most of these things, unless their like plan is Trump isn't going to be in power, but don't worry, they're going to lock down these elections, and then Vance can be president. He'll do the exact same thing or something. That might be their long-term plan. The bigger issue for me is that I don't think any of these are business decisions. I don't think CBS is supposed to do better with Barry Weiss. I think it's supposed to do less that annoys the administration. I don't think that like what Bezos is doing to the Washington Post is designed to make money. I think it's designed to make the Washington Post more irrelevant, because it's not good business for the Washington Post, but it's good business for Bezos if getting rid of the Washington Post effectively means that Trump is going to help out Bezos in the other parts of his business that he cares more about. And maybe there's a version of that for the Ellisons. Like, I kill CNN, it won't make any money, but it barely did anyway. But that's okay, because now Trump is going to have my back on bigger stuff that I actually care about. That's sort of my concern. By the way, also, I want to be super clear. My concerns about this is not that I love CNN. It's the best. That is not what I think. Although I will say, I think Caitlin Collins does a pretty good job, and I'm wondering what will end up happening to her as a result of this. But it's also even if it's media that I think generally sucks that's being attacked, I still don't want to see this open warfare against the basic premise of a free media. And even in the case of a CNN that I think drops the ball constantly, they're super controlling about what's allowed to be said on there, what sort of perspectives, who you're allowed to criticize. They still do some stuff with their bigger salary than we're capable of doing. They occasionally report on what's going on abroad. They're able to get access to a lot of politicians and maybe ask them some tough questions, very rarely. And so there is still some loss. I don't think it's it's not the sky is falling necessarily, but there's still a lot about this that makes me really uncomfortable. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that point is definitely taken. It's ugly whenever our overlords in the billionaire class just for the fun of it, just for the love of the sport, can just buy up whole media conglomerates overnight and just turn them into their little playthings. I mean, I think it speaks about the grotesqueness of the wealth inequality of our society. Obviously, that's just an ugly outcome. But I think I was reading Ryan Grimm, as a matter of fact, of Dropsite, again, another independent media outlet that's very influential. And they were just look, you think about something like Epstein, where New York Times, CNN, Washington Post, you name it, all of the big guys, they just refuse to talk about Epstein and his ties to the CIA and the Israeli Mossad. Yet the public is yeah, totally a spy. Totally worked for CIA, totally works for the Israeli intelligence regime, totally in cahoots with the billionaire class, and there's at a certain point they're not gatekeeping this information anymore. They just can't, and so that's why I choose to look at this as the sort of hubris of our billionaire class, that they think, oh, I'll just buy TikTok and censor it and that'll change everything. It's nah, bruh, that's just not how the world works. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay, well, we're gonna see how this proceeds, but for now, I think we should take a first break. There's lots more to get to after this. Yeah, I do think on some level, we talked about sort of social media and the media. I guess I'm actually more concerned about social media, even when it's platforms that I don't really use that are getting bought out. There will be a new TikTok once enough people realize that TikTok is now just designed to protect the oligarchs or whatever. But and I didn't really use it, but it is sad. And Twitter used to serve a purpose, and now it just sucks. And so I don't know. Really hate that this dark machine of these oligarchs able to take the money they've stolen from us to then buy up the tools we use that might be capable of challenging them is pretty messed up, especially considering that we have so few Democrats that even were they to get into power would be willing to do literally anything about it. So with that said, let's jump into some of your comments. Happy Warrior gifted a membership, which is super nice of you. Thank you. CDN Northstock Dad gifted a membership. Don Quixote gifted 5, thank you. Christina Lisa Brown gifted 1 as well, thank you so much. Deb M has become a member. Thank you. Christina Lisa Brown in the YouTube comments says, is Woz not having kids because I'm hello? That was for you, Woz. I don't know if you heard me.
I did not. You mind saying that again?
Yeah, it was Christina Lisa Brown says, is Woz not having kids because I'm hello? Something to think about. Don Quixote, member for 54 months, says, only go to watch for a few minutes, doctor appointment. I'll catch up later. No worries, hope everything's going well. And by the way, in this moment, if you have friends that you think might soon not have access to the media they like, if that's CNN, feel free to encourage them to watch us or one of the other great outlets that Woz was talking about there. Okay, Andrew, member for 26 months, says unintended positive consequences of the merger. Tubi, is it Tubby? Is Tubi? It's Tubi, right? It's not Tubby. They wouldn't have named it Tubby. Fox Entertainment got access to a bunch of old Hanna-Barbera shows for streaming. Well, that's interesting. I did not know that. Dav Mill in a super chat says, West Virginia and Kentucky are considering legislation to transfer military grade weapons to the public under state authority. If only Georgia joins in so I could buy. Dear God. But think about, like, from the point of view of Trump, yeah, get some of those weapons out in the public. Let them do a couple of big mass shootings, a couple of terrorist attacks or whatever. You use that to clamp down or whatever. It's like chaos very much fits their plan. Oh dear God, the Democrats have got to take over one or two houses in the midterms. We've got to do something about some of this. I don't know what they could do in the case of like a media merger or whatever, but I don't know. CD No Stock Dad says in a super chat, Diaper Donnie does not like the free press who might criticize him or tell him that he is not the king of America. 100%. Not only does he not care at all about free media, free speech, free press, whatever, he also nurses a grudge like literally no one else we've ever seen in public life before. Okay, Lilo Stitch Dragon has been here for 56 months over on Twitch. Thank you, that's a good long time. El Duderino Dragon's been here for 30 months. It's happy Friday, John. Please take my Bezos bucks. Thank you, gladly. We are having some kind of problem with this document. Okay, Little Cake with Sprinkles, you sound delicious. Has been here for 63 months. Says 63 months with a Woz and John show. Nice way to end the week. Thank you. I love it when it lines up that way. Anti-Descriptive's been here for 51 months. Says, I love it when Woz comes on TDR to say true things, hitting the nail on the head as usual. Agreed. Well, just wait until you hear what he has to say about our Epstein stories coming up. Hatchet Jack's been here for 43 months. Says, there's nowhere else I'd want to spend my lunch break. Took it late today to catch Garbage People. Oh, that's super nice of you. Thank you. Well, I hope Garbage People lives up to your expectations. And with that, let's get back to more news. Welcome back, one and all. Definitely hit the like button if you're just joining us now. Let's jump into more news. MAGA is once again mad at one of their general allies, that being Lauren Boebert, as well as one of their favorite media figures, Benny Johnson. But why? Well, they finally got what they wanted, which is Hillary Clinton being dragged in, not in public though. They don't want it to be done in public, to testify about what she knows about Jeffrey Epstein, because she, or at least her husband, appears in the Epstein files. And if you are in the Epstein files, obviously you have to testify before Congress. That's what I think the Republicans are telling us. But anyway, it was supposed to be this behind closed door thing. Hillary Clinton had requested to make it public. She wanted to show that she didn't have anything to fear or whatever. The Republicans weirdly didn't want to do that. So then the idea is then it's hidden. But Lauren Boebert wasn't happy about that. And so Benny Johnson, right during the actual testimony, tweets out the first image of Hillary Clinton testifying under oath about Jeffrey Epstein to the Republican Oversight Committee. This is the first time Hillary has had to answer real questions about Epstein. Clinton does not look happy. Photo provided by Representative Lauren Boebert. And she probably would have preferred that he not put that last bit because you're not supposed to be sharing those images during the actual thing. But really fast, can we go back to this? So bear in mind that Benny Johnson is doing a little performance here. I don't mean generally in his life, the whole sexual orientation thing. No, I'm talking about specifically in this. He wants to be able to pretend that like he cares about Jeffrey Epstein. And now, of course, he has to ignore like Elon Musk being there, Donald Trump being there literally a million times, and Howard Lutnick and all that. He's like desperate to have some Democrat to talk about. So, okay, good. They've given him Hillary Clinton. So they got Hillary Clinton. Bring this up again. And he wants to make it seem as if this is really bad for Hillary Clinton. She does not look happy. What are you talking? That's the most Hillary Clinton-ass photo I've ever seen in my life. She doesn't look particularly bothered. Again, she wanted to do it publicly. I'm not even a fan of Hillary Clinton, but you are stretching, boy, if you think this looks like she's under the gun or something. Anyway, the hearing had to be suspended as a result of this, and it looked briefly like it might actually derail the whole thing. It didn't end up working out this way. Democrats got all aggrieved about the photo being put out, and it is actually a violation of the rules, but not that the rules matter anymore in this Congress, but I don't particularly care about that part. But some MAGA were mad about Benny Johnson potentially ruining this for them. One commenter said, they name dropped you specifically. Hopefully you or Boebert aren't trying to sabotage the hearing as to protect billionaire pedophiles. And I understand their concern. Benny Johnson is a part of the right-wing media attempt to cover up what Epstein did and who else might have done it, so they should be worried. Another person, is Mojo, says, way to go, now they're stopping the proceedings. A Charlie Kirk supporter, Texas girl, said, why didn't you wait until it was done? Now they've stopped. Thanks, Benny. And Boebert tried to be all, I don't know, like Mean Girls about it. She was asked about this and she made a joke about Bleach Bit, that like 10-year-old topical humor of hers. Anyway, she's absolutely the worst. I think that the stunt is funny though, Woz. What do you make of it?
It's just typical bungling on that side. They were just so sure, I don't know why, that the Epstein thing was gonna be this Democratic Party exposing thing and not bipartisan. I don't know why they thought elite corruption was partisan. Like, what do you see about government and how it's run that tells you that only the Democrats are compromised or corrupted by the power and the elite of our society and country? Like, that's just stupid. And so, yeah, they finally get something that they're like, oh, a Democrat is up there, and they just get so happy and they bungle it. But what they don't realize is that the people who genuinely care about the Epstein thing the most know that it's bipartisan. Yeah. This isn't a partisan issue that people are interested in. They're interested because it implicates all of the elites. Yeah. And so that's what I think people like Benny Johnson don't get, because he's a hack. He's a partisan hack. He's a paid little whore for the Republican Party. He's not somebody that has objective principles like many of our citizens who are interested in the Epstein files, who say, hold on, man, maybe it's messed up to be abusing young people. And maybe our elites are depraved and have no morals and no principles that they would affiliate and associate with a guy after having known that he's done this stuff. And some of them actually participated in it. That's the point that people get out of the Epstein files. Not that they can score cheap political partisan points. That's what losers like Benny Johnson could never understand, that there are actually people who hold actual principles.
Yeah, 100%. And I look, there's like a freedom to actually just saying what you really believe and not, like getting a check from billionaires or from the party, whatever. That Benny Johnson has to live a lie, actually multiple lies. But in this particular case, that he actually cares about this, because if he did care, then he wouldn't have to contort himself into these knots where he's like, well, Hillary Clinton should have to answer questions, even though I don't even think Hillary Clinton's name is in the files. It's like her husband's name is in the files. But okay, if that's the justification, Donald Trump's in there literally a million times. Isn't it a bit suspicious that you don't think he should be investigated? Hillary Clinton didn't have someone accuse her of forcing a 13-year-old to perform oral sex on her. Donald Trump did. Donald Trump himself, in an FBI interview, says at one point after they'd arrested Epstein that he knew all about what Epstein was up to. That's why he didn't want to be around him anymore. If Hillary Clinton had admitted that she knew what Donald Trump was doing and chose not to go to the authorities with it, they would be justified in bringing her in. But weirdly, Benny Johnson doesn't think that Donald Trump should have to answer questions about that. And the mere presence of her husband in the files, again, justification for her to come in. But weirdly, members of the current administration appearing in far more, I would say, worrying circumstances, not a justification. And with that, I want to turn to this. We've been talking about Howard Lutnick recently, and we unfortunately need to again, because Donald Trump's DOJ got caught trying to hide evidence of the close relationship between Jeffrey Epstein and Trump's buddy, Howard Lutnick. And in particular, I don't just mean their messaging back and forth that proved that Lutnick knew him far better than he had initially lied about. I don't even just mean that he went to the island, which again, Lutnick had lied about. He had concealed the fact that he went to Epstein's island. I mean this, there is a photo of the two together, apparently partying it up on the island right there, that the DOJ evidently deleted from the files. So here's the actual photo. You see a Jeffrey Epstein, you see Lutnick behind. I don't know who all of those other individuals are. Lutnick made it seem as if he only went to the island once and only for an hour for lunch with his kids and his family and his nannies, and it was just a good family thing. I don't see any family there. Weird, maybe worth bringing in to testify about that. But what's interesting is that this image was found on Gmail. That's a searchable clone someone set up of Epstein's Gmail account. So you can basically be in his email. But the file's accompanying name, when you go to the DOJ website, weirdly, page not found. Interesting about that. Now the DOJ does have a cover story. They say this image was part of a batch of files that were flagged for nudity. The batch of thousands of images was pulled for review and is being uploaded with necessary redactions on a rolling basis. No files are being deleted, so ignore the fact that they don't have the legal authority to not have disclosed this already. They've been in violation of that for like 2 months. But it was flagged for nudity. Okay, that's probably for the best if there's nudity in there. But hold up, can we go back to that image? Because I'm looking at it, and the only thing that's naked is how nakedly they're trying to cover up this entire scandal. There ain't no bare, I mean, look, Howard Lutnick's ankles aren't great to look at, but I don't think the file needs to be pulled for that. And you will have to forgive me if I have an issue with that cover story, because there are at least 100 actual explicit naked photos of women in the files that they didn't pull. But they do pull the one of Howard Lutnick with Epstein, where there's no nudity whatsoever. And Roz, I will remind you, although some in MAGA are frustrated with Lutnick and were wondering why he was at the State of the Union, Donald Trump has expressed no concern about Lutnick going to the island after Donald Trump was arrested for trafficking a minor. And Comer's not asking him to come in and testify. Benny Johnson isn't concerned about it. Seems a little bit hypocritical, but what do you think?
Not surprising. Again, it's just the lack of accountability for the elites, where there's just no mechanism that these guys can be held to any standard whatsoever. It's just jarring, honestly, especially when you see what's happening in places like England and you know and Denmark and all these places where folks' heads are actually rolling. People being arrested for their corruption and their dealings with this guy. People being shunned from society, whereas like here, there's like some private sector stuff happening, like Larry Summers with Harvard and all the think tanks that he was a part of, and the Obama lawyer who had to quit at Goldman, which is kind of hilarious to me that Goldman Sachs is showing more integrity in this than the United States government, which just blows my mind. But Lutnick just being caught in a bold-faced lie, just straight up lied.
Yeah,
just lied on TV to a New York Post reporter, and there just being no consequences for government officials. Like, these people have so much power and authority. It stands to reason that they should be held to a higher standard than the average citizen. And what we're learning is that in fact, they're held to a lower standard. In fact, there are no standards.
No standards.
No standards whatsoever for the most powerful people in the most powerful government in the world. It's astonishing, John.
Yeah, I like the hypocrisy of that. Lutnick lied about going to the island. That is like, go back a year and we're all speculating what could be in. Going to the island was the thing that maybe it could be revealed you did. Hillary Clinton is testifying because her husband, I think, was in a photo on the plane, right? Not her, but her husband. And the concern that everybody has had about people being on his plane was what? That they were going somewhere. Where? The island. Maybe Clinton went to the island, so we have to ask questions. Lutnick was on the island. We literally have a photo of him on the island. And Bill Clinton didn't lie about it. I mean, I don't know that he was forthcoming about it, but he didn't outright lie. Lutnick lied to conceal that he brought his children to Epstein's island after Epstein was revealed to have trafficked a minor. And we don't need to ask him any questions about that. Goddamn, our government is such a pathetic embarrassment. But anyway, we need to take a short break. We're gonna turn to another embarrassment, which is the state of the US economy after this. The other thing that is an embarrassment is me, unfortunately, making producer Mike right, and I am behind schedule now. So we're gonna move on to D&E, I think, and C can super wait until Monday, and we're gonna be perfectly fine. It's just it's wild because they're hiding still maybe half the documents or videos and stuff like that, and we know that they're hiding a lot of stuff about Donald Trump. They're hiding those FBI interviews and everything. But what are we hoping maybe gets revealed? Maybe, oh my God, did Donald Trump go to the island? But why are we even waiting for that? Let's say that the photos came out tonight. Lutnick was on the island and it hasn't mattered at all. There's no standards for these people, even amongst their base who pretended for so long to care about it. Anyway, Votostar says, with CNN collapsing, TYT should hire Caitlin Collins. Is that spelled right? Not sure I've ever seen her name written down. I am going to guess that one, I don't know that Caitlin Collins would necessarily want to work here, although, maybe. More so, I have a feeling there is no way in hell we could afford her because I expect that her salary is probably pretty goddamn high. But anyway, Salt of the Union says, Trump friendly, Israel friendly. We know why these news outlets are getting got. Yeah. Boomer Dragon Cat says, I have kids and grandkids that often need a helping hand, so I don't do subscriptions. Except TYT, I give as much as I can. I really appreciate that. Yeah, I have a number. So I have Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, Apple. I don't necessarily have all these. It's either me or my wife or whatever. We don't necessarily always know. And I guess ESPN. And I did the WNBA one, but that's like you buy it for the whole year or whatever. I do think that I need to dial it back. We have cable. I don't even know why I have cable.
Oh, don't forget Apple TV Plus. I got that too.
Yeah. That's got some good shows on it. I do like occasionally stuff on there. I watched Pluribus on there recently, and that was okay. But yeah, I especially like cable. What I like about having cable is I like a couple live things. Like that's where we do watch some of the Unrivaled games, and I do like watching like SNL. But it's nice to just come across something that you're not looking for. But again, Pluto is free and I can get that same experience there. I don't know, I really need to dial it back. It really does add up. Okay, yes, so PM says, and Clinton invited Maxwell to Chelsea's wedding. So we had that in the first part of the block, we just didn't get to it. That's not, as far as I know, that's not exactly the case. Clinton says that Maxwell was the +1 of someone that she did invite, not that Clinton invited Maxwell, and that there were 500 guests, thus 500 potential +1s. Again, if you want to say that that's suspicious, that's perfectly fine. And the Republicans would say that it is. But then why is it not suspicious that Donald Trump and Melania partied with Ghislaine Maxwell and Epstein constantly? Trump partied with him for years and years and years and years, not one wedding. Over and over, they were best friends. He went to his office, they were at each other's. I just think if you're gonna say that that's suspicious, then Donald Trump doing it 1,000 times more should be at least 1,000 times more suspicious. Anyway. Okay, LP Revolt Dragon says Lutnick took his kids to Epstein because he didn't like sex ed being taught his kids in school. Gross. Yeah, look, I'm sure that nothing happened, but nothing had to happen for that to be an incredibly suspicious thing, that you bring your whole family to the island of a guy who has already gone down for trafficking kids. You should not, under any circumstances, associate with him in any way, let alone to bring your family there. And why did he do it? We don't know. I just suspect it wasn't just for lunch. Okay, everybody, more news to come, but first I want to remind you about a partnership that TYT is doing with Noble Mobile, the only wireless plan that pays you to use your phone less. $50 a month gets you their Noble plan where you get unlimited data for just $50 a month. And you can find out more at tyt.com/switch. With that, let's jump into the news.
I'm talking about your American dream. Whether you want to have a good job and raise a healthy, happy family, whether your kid wants to go off and play college football, whether you want to start a business like the one that we're standing in, whatever it is, the great thing about this country is that the American dream comes in many shapes and sizes. But here's the thing about the American dream. The government cannot give it to you for you. But the government, with bad policy and bad leadership, it can destroy that American dream, whatever shape it takes in the lives of you and your children.
Now, I, as an aspiring author, have always been told to show, don't tell. Now, Vance both told you that government policy could wreck your dreams, but he's also been showing you over the past year. Because for all that he would say that, oh, we're golden economy, it's gonna be great, blah, blah, blah. We're looking at the actual numbers and it's not looking good. We're about to enter, a period where a lot of people are gonna need to use a lot of electricity. It's gonna get hotter and hotter. Prices massively up. And I will remind you, JD Vance, Donald Trump, big fans of the AI companies, the big tech companies building these data centers. But don't worry, they're gonna control the price of electricity with their fully voluntary pledge to pay for electricity themselves. As of right now, we know from the BLS, electricity costs were up 6.3% from a year ago. Overall, consumer price index is up 2.4% in that same period. And electricity prices are rising. The cost is rising too. And that's a problem across all sorts of different parts of the economy, because as businesses pay more for their electricity, they're gonna have to pass that on. And that, by the way, was the overall average increase. In some places, it's far more. Pennsylvania's electricity is nearly 20% more expensive than it was a year before. Rhode Island and New Jersey are right there in the middle teens with Maine and Ohio. This is a lot. No, great. California's down there too. Wonderful for me. And I just want to remind all of you, it isn't just that the economic truth puts the lie to what Vance is saying. It's that there were very specific lies that Donald Trump told you. Donald Trump said at a campaign stop in Pennsylvania back in August of 2024, energy costs, all of it, air conditioning, heating, all of it, including gasoline, will drop by more than 50% within the first 12 months. And he loved making that sort of pledge. The next month in North Carolina, he said, under the Trump economic plan, we will cut your energy prices in half. Mark it down. You can get very angry at me if we don't do it. Well, what do you know? They didn't do it. None of those things are 50% lower. In fact, electricity is significantly more expensive than it was when he made those claims. And are people mad? I would argue that yes, they already are. I think that's in no small part why his approval ratings are going down. I would argue they should remember his very specific claims, and perhaps then they'd be even more angry. Woz, what do you think?
Nobody should be surprised by this economy and how it's not working for normal everyday people, because the tariffs are a regressive tax. What does that mean? If you're paying more for goods, it's more of a percentage of your earnings as a normal person than the uber rich. That's just a fact. And so all of those revenues that were generated via the tariffs were made on the backs of everyday people. And then, like what they're calling a K-shaped economy, meaning people that are doing well are still spending money into the economy, but they're the only ones doing so. There's no growth in any of this other stuff. So yeah, expensive designer stuff. People are still taking their trips to Europe and Turks and Caicos. So the airlines are doing fine, hotel industry, et cetera, et cetera. I watched a More Perfect Union video about Vegas and the Vegas economy and how, less and less normal people are going, but the ultra rich are still going and they're spending more money than ever. And so the casinos and the resorts are still getting their bottom line, but they've priced out normal people. Like, that's just the direction of the entire economy writ large. And the idea that Donald Trump and his regressive tariffs and his tax cuts for the very richest people in our country was gonna help the majority, the overwhelming super majority of people who live here who don't who don't qualify for those tax cuts, who the tariffs and the increase of prices of goods and stuff and services going up adversely affects them. Nobody should be surprised by any of these outcomes.
Yeah. I just want to remind everyone, specifically on electricity, we desperately need, evidently, more electricity for the normal stuff that we already do, but also because our economy has just decided we're just going to put literally trillions of dollars into AI, and we'll figure out some reason that people need to use it at some point. So we desperately need electricity. But at the same time that the prices are already going up, we're unfortunately governed by Donald Trump, by JD Vance, who are running our government's approach and stance towards more electricity production through their insane right-wing culture war view that we don't produce electricity in any form that we can to get as much of it as possible to drive the price down. No, they identify with fossil fuels. It has to be coal. It has to be fossil gas. We're not going to get more wind. We're not going to get more solar. Not because it's not economically competitive. In many cases, it's actually cheaper than coal-produced electricity. We just don't want it. We don't like it for culture war purposes. And so we're going to hurt it. We're going to do regulations. We're going to make it more expensive. And then that is going to be passed on to you. That because we want you to use a certain type of electricity, we don't care if it makes it more expensive for millions of American consumers. And that's the part of it that I think a lot of people probably don't know about it. They know the prices are going up. They don't know that it's based on insane, stupid, self-destructive right-wing identity politics. Anyway, with that said, let's jump now into one more related story. A new update on inflation in America is really deflating one of Donald Trump's boldest claims that he made about the economy during his State of the Union address. I'm going to play it for you, and just a reminder that he said this knowing at the time that it wasn't true. Take a look.
The Biden administration and its allies in Congress gave us the worst inflation in the history of our country. But in 12 months, my administration has driven core inflation down to the lowest level in more than 5 years. And in the last 3 months of 2025, it was down to 1.7%.
Yeah, so basically every part of that was a lie. First of all, the idea that Biden passed on the highest inflation ever. No, there was high inflation during Biden's term, but it wasn't at the end of his term. It was during the middle of it. And I think there was something going on around the world. I don't remember what it was. I'll have to Google it at some point. Also, even that wasn't the highest inflation we've ever had. There have been other difficult times economically. Inflation had been going down quite a bit by the end of Biden's term. Now, it still was too high, and we still had prices that had been elevated from earlier in Biden's term, but he didn't hand over record high inflation. It was 2.9%. Now, inflation did fall a little bit during the beginning of Trump's term. I will remind you, it had been falling months in a row. It got to 2.3%. The issue is that he then made a conscious decision to institute utterly deranged tariffs all over the world, ridiculously high tariffs, constantly changing tariffs. And what do you know, as we said it would, as experts said it would, that caused inflation to go up, and thus it did. Inflation is not now at some record low. It is unfortunately higher than it was earlier in Trump's term. It's certainly higher than he promised it would be. In fact, this is the most recent data. Wholesale prices rose at a faster than expected pace in January. The core PPI, which excludes volatile food and energy prices, increased a seasonally adjusted 0.8%, more than the 0.6% gain in December, and well ahead of the Dow Jones consensus estimate for 0.3%. For the full year, core wholesale prices accelerated 3.6%, while the headline index posted a 2.9% gain. Both figures are well ahead of the Fed's 2% inflation goal and suggest that rising prices are still a factor for the US economy. So those are not good. They're higher than expected. They're also notably not 1.7%. That is just a made up number that he invented to lie to you. Any final thoughts from you, Woz?
Trump can't tell the truth about the economy because it's absolutely an indictment of his entire regime and reason for being, his alleged business expertise as to why he deserved to be our president and therefore lead our economic recovery. But the problem for him is that people actually have to go to the grocery store. They actually have to pay their utility bills. No matter what Donald Trump says, money leaving their bank account is something they're gonna notice. you can't lie to people about what's happening with their pocketbooks. And so, yeah, he's doomed, and so is his popularity and his entire regime. Like the approval rating is under 40%. I think it could even go further than that because things are always are definitely going to get worse, and there's not going to be any intervention on the part of Donald Trump to make everyday Americans' lives better.
And the ridiculous thing is, he could have just been like, oh, the SCOTUS killed my tariffs. Oh, what are you gonna do? But he decided instead to put him back. And you're right, you can't lie to people about very specific things that they see. Like, he tells them gas is $1.99. And then they go to pump gas and they see that it's not. It is such a stupid lie to tell people. You goddamn idiot. Anyway, that is gonna have to be it for the first hour of the show. Thank you to everybody who's been listening to the podcast. But for those of you watching live, we of course have the aftermath. We have garbage people, so don't go anywhere. Woz and I'll be back after this. Welcome back, one and all, to the Aftermath with me and Woz. Thank you for being here. We got garbage people coming up in just a few. First, though, don't forget about our sponsor, Noble Mobile. Save money by using your phone less and get unlimited data for $50 a month at tyt.com/switch. I'm gonna read just a couple quick comments first. IDK anymore says, Woz, sounds like you need a cable bundle with all those services. I wish we could just go back to it at this point.
Let's bring it back. It was much better. It just so much better.
I know. It seemed Netflix was a revelation at one point, and then, oh no, what happens always happened. It just, they get good, they crowd out the marketplace, it gets bad, it gets worse, it gets more expensive. That's what they always do. Anyway, okay. Gargoyle Dragon says in super chat, breaking news, the latest Pokemon game is going to be based on Indonesia. Sorry, just wanted to share some fun, non-political news. Do you have a favorite starter? I only briefly, like in high school, played one of the Pokemon games. I probably Squirtle, I guess. I don't know. I'm not a big Pokemon person. Woz, are you?
No, I definitely watched Pokemon in like 6th grade. I remember that was one of the last cartoons that I was into, but haven't kept up with it. No.
Yeah.
I didn't do the Pokemon Go. I didn't do any of that stuff. So yeah.
I did Pokemon Go briefly. I was part of that cultural thing. It is interesting that they're making the game set on an island where you're going to be sending your kid to the islands. Interesting timing on that. But anyway, but it does sound like a cool change of pace. Okay, with that said, oh geez, I completely forgot. I had one job and I forgot it. So it's the end of the week, so it's time to take out the trash. Woz, who is your garbage person of the week?
It's U.S. Ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee, former governor, former Republican presidential candidate. He went on Tucker Carlson's interview show and made a complete and utter ass of himself, basically stating that Israel's right to their land is solely from the Bible, from God himself. And Tucker's like, well, you know, I read that passage that you're talking about, and in that book it says, you know, they have dominion over the land from the Euphrates to the Nile or whatever the hell it is, and turns out that's like 3/4 of the Middle East. And this idiot caused an international incident. He's like, yeah, Israel has a right to all of it. Like he literally said. And that's Saudi, Iraq, Jordan. Like it's preposterous, but it just shows that this guy just has not even the pretense of being there working on behalf of the American people at all. He doesn't even bother pretending when he says, yeah, Israel's like way more humane than our military. Israel's perfect. Israel's the best. Israel deserves everything. It's just such a garbage display from a guy who's supposed to be, again, remember folks, he's supposed to be over there working on your behalf, allegedly.
Yeah. Well, I think we actually have the video. Why don't we play the video so you can see what Huckabee said?
You have said it 3 times that God gave this land to this people. And so it is entirely fair for me with respect to ask, what land are you talking about? Because I just read Genesis 15, as I have many times. And that land, I think it says, from the Nile to the Euphrates, which is, once again, basically the entire Middle East. So God gave that land to his people, the Jews, or he didn't. You're saying he did. What does that mean? Does Israel have the right to that land?
It would be fine if they took it all.
That is insane. Was
these like 7 countries had to make a joint statement like, bro, no, it wouldn't be fine. We're sovereign nations. Like God didn't promise this land to the Jewish people. Like this is craziness, right? This guy literally caused an international incident because he's such a clown and a shill. So yeah, he's my garbage person of the week, y'all.
Yeah, I also like I love the idea that Tucker Carlson, he just reads that section all the time. You know, he's just constantly reading that section of the Bible. Get the out of here with that. But also, like, just think about the justification that Israel and its defenders use to do anything they want. They could put every Palestinian into a massive wood chipper because some Palestinians say they don't have a right to exist. He's just saying none of those countries have a right to exist, and Israel should just take them all, I guess. Jordan or Egypt or Lebanon or Syria doing whatever they want is justified because this is what people on that side think. That is insane, and he should have already lost his position. It's ridiculous that he hasn't. Great garbage person. Okay, with that said, mine is gonna be a very different sort. Let's jump down to this. My garbage person of the week is gonna have to be Donald Trump, or I guess the White House. I don't know. I'm gonna lump them all together because of what you're about to see. See, they've been riding high all this week because they were able to link themselves up to a popular group. That's the US men's Olympic hockey team. Everybody's super excited for them. And the White House, who nobody likes anymore, is like, hey, they're actually our buddies. And so they sent Kash Patel, and they also decided to have a little bit of fun on social media. Remember, they're masters of social media in the Trump administration. So they decided to post this on TikTok.
They booed our national anthem, so I had to come out and teach those maple syrup eating folks a lesson. Canada, we own you, lil bro.
So to be very clear, the player in that video, Brady Tkachuk, I'm reading as his name, didn't say that. That's not a thing that he said about the team that they ended up beating. The White House just made it up. They did, as I've been saying they will do. They will substitute deep fakes and AI slop for a reality that no longer favors them. And the thing about it is, I don't like that they did that. You know who else doesn't like that they did that? Brady Tkachuk, who put out a statement saying it's clearly fake because it's not my voice and not my lips moving. I'm not in control of any of those accounts. It was literally the White House account. I know that those words would never come out of my mouth. Asked if he liked the video, he said that he did not. I would never say that. That's not who I am. He apparently, like, I'm not a big hockey fan, so I apologize. He's the captain of the NHL's Ottawa Senators. He's played his entire career in Ottawa, in Canada. So I imagine that could cause some significant problems for him. And so, if you gave a damn about him as an individual or even just as a hockey player, you probably wouldn't do this to him. But if instead you didn't care about him or the team or the Olympics or any of it, and you just wanted to use them as like a political tool to make yourself look cooler, well then who cares? Do your deep fakes, screw him over with the fans in Ottawa or whatever. You could do that. And that seems to be what they did. They didn't make the video because they actually care about them. They didn't give them the medals at the State of the Union. They didn't give them McDonald's in the White House because they care about them. They're a political tool to these people, these disgusting monsters in the White House. Woz, what do you think?
They've been doing this deep fake AI slop nonsense from the start. Trump just the other day posted a video of him playing like he's playing hockey in a navy blue suit, and he's like the best hockey player ever. This is just par for the course, but it's fine when you do it with your clown president. Like an actual person in this world who has a relationship to a community. His team is an institution, a pillar of that community. To put out a video where he's insulting these people egregiously for no reason is so just ridiculous. But again, it's in keeping with this current government, man. Like they're so reckless and just lack any level of thoughtfulness ever on everything. It's crazy. Like they don't display thoughtfulness in any arena. It's mind-boggling.
Yeah, and I just like maybe the rest of the team won't care, but like they've been like super nice to the Trump administration. Like at a certain point, I don't know, they keep punching in the face. Maybe you should defend yourself. But those are our garbage people. 63,000 of you voted for the community garbage person of the week. And here are your top 4. Getting 7% of the vote is Representative Gonzalez for refusing to resign after the affair allegations. We covered that earlier this week. 12% to Kash Patel for partying with the men's hockey team and probably requiring us to spend, I don't know, $10,000 to $100,000 to send him there to do it. 37% to Donald Trump for downplaying the economy at the State of the Union. 44%, pretty close this week, chose Judge Cannon, Eileen Cannon, for blocking the release of the classified documents report. And just as a reminder of how insane our world is, I had completely forgotten about that story by the end of the week. That's how sick our system is. But thank you to the many of you who voted. Now, getting positive for a second, 64,000 of you voted for the hero of the week. 3% choosing Summer Lee for her progressive State of the Union speech. 10% to JB Pritzker for billing the Trump administration for tariff refunds. Nice little move there. 21% to Ilhan Omar for saying Trump has killed Americans during the State of the Union. But 65%, damn, chose the women's Olympic hockey team for declining an invitation to the White House. And I love for them that they did that. I love for us that they did that. Now, with that said, we might well be able to get into stories because we're making good time. Why don't we stay positive, talk about some more good people as we move into this. Zoran Mamdani, like all of us, knows that Donald Trump has a weird little crush on him. And so when Mamdani decided to pay him another visit in the White House, Trump was likely to be happy to see him no matter what. But if Zoran Mamdani wanted to get something out of the meeting, and he did, he knew that he could probably increase his odds of that even more by playing on Trump's obvious and clownish vanity. And he did it perfectly. He released this tweet saying, "I had a productive meeting with President Trump this afternoon. I'm looking forward to building more housing in New York City." And we'll turn to the housing. But look what Zoran Mamdani and his team did. They printed out this classic front page of, I believe that's the Daily News, I think. There was a crisis and President Ford at that point basically like rejected helping out New York City. And then he presented a possible future where Donald Trump is on the cover and Zoran Mamdani chose one of Trump's favorite photos of himself where it's Trump to city, let's build. And then there's other stuff like building 11,000 units or whatever. And Donald Trump is so happy to have that fake cover. My God, I almost feel bad at how happy he is. And the New York Times puts it this: the president, once a frequent star of The Wood or front page of city tabloids, displays his souvenir with evident glee. Donald Trump is happier to have that fake Photoshop cover than I've ever seen him with his family or wife. And so Mamdani perfectly played him right there, and I love it. Now, we'll get to the actual policy in a second, but Woz, I don't know if you'd seen this before. What do you make of it?
I saw the picture and I didn't realize that it was Zoran who made the commemorative. I assume it was the Trump White House sort of making their own propaganda materials, but the fact that it was Zoran who just knows on a certain level, he understands what motivates Trump, and it is headlines, and it is this very parochial New York City stuff. Yeah. You know, walking by a newsstand and seeing his picture, and it's about him doing something to build in the city. It's pretty genius, man.
Yeah, no, it's super clever. I love that they did it, and
it's like, so good.
It reflects so poorly on Donald Trump. Not just the vanity, that's one thing, but that Trump can't see what's being done in here. That dense, my God. But that said, I don't want him to realize what's happening because I want him to work with Mamdani, who at this point I'm guessing Trump is probably going to endorse for 2028 or whatever. Anyway, so what's going on? What does Mamdani want? Why did he do the stunt there? And why do I want him to succeed? Well, in the meeting, which happened just yesterday, Mamdani pitched President Trump on the Sunnyside Yard development. This is a proposal to build a deck over the 180-acre rail yard in Queens and create a new mixed-use community with 12,000 affordable apartments, new schools, and public space above a new regional rail hub. Former Mayor Bill de Blasio's administration released a master plan for the project right before the city shut down back in March of 2020, and it's been at a standstill since. Mamdani said he asked the president for $21 billion in federal grants to advance the project. So they would like the money. They also need approval to do this because that yard is owned and operated by Amtrak. So they would need a federal approval to actually build it. And if they did it, it would be the biggest new affordable housing project in New York City since the 70s when they did the Co-op City in the Bronx. And I had to look this up because I hadn't been familiar with this proposal. And I didn't understand at first what they were talking about building a deck there. But they're literally talking about, there's this massive rail yard. They're gonna build an elevated layer atop it that then the neighborhood is built on. And all of the train yards, hundreds and hundreds of trains go through there every day, will continue to operate. And evidently there are other examples of this in New York. I had not been familiar with this at all. It seems wild to build an entire neighborhood on top of a train yard, but 12,000 extra apartments as well as affordable housing that could be built and bought there. I think that would be great for New York. I think it's a great idea, Woz. What do you make of it?
I mean, yeah, the biggest issue with housing in New York is the scarcity of the inventory. And the way that you address that is literally by building and making more housing. And if Zoran could literally get this through just because he was good he had this immense emotional intelligence that he could just work on Donald Trump's emotions and ego to deliver this for New Yorkers. I'm sorry, this guy is hitting the ground running. And what I love the most is that he's showing these establishment Dems who, whenever they have power and influence, can't ever manage to do anything for working people, that they're utter failures. Yeah. And this is how it's done. And this is gonna be the platform that even more progressives can run all over America on, by literally just getting stuff done for their actual constituents and not just the people who society is already working for, meaning the people who ride around in their black cars and live in these, these glass towers in the sky, literally live above and apart from the rest of us plebes down below. And so that's what makes me the most excited, is that if he could get this done, this can be an example for other progressives around the country to get done too.
Yeah, it's just, I'll end on this. It is fascinating that he has, he's a mayor, it's a specific thing, but he's so focused on getting stuff done, and he's getting stuff done, and he's doing it a progressive way. And he's weirdly working with Trump, and Trump likes him. But also importantly, it's not at least as far as I've seen, he's not giving in on anything to Donald Trump. He's not oh, ICE can now, cart all the kids away or anything. There's nobody else in America that is doing this mix of things, and that makes it so fascinating. I don't know if it's reproducible, but I would certainly like to see people try.
I think a big part of it, John, is that Trump is a New Yorker, and he obviously has an affinity and a soft spot for the city, and he wants his name attached to something that people like.
Yeah,
and
good point.
And I think that you can't underestimate Trump being from New York matters, and him culturally having an understanding on just a straight visceral level, what some of these cultural touchstones, being on the cover of the Daily News, which again is a freaking newspaper. It shouldn't matter in the digital world, but Trump is so New York. He eats this stuff right up like catnip.
100%. Now that said, let's we've time. We can do it. Yeah. Okay. Well, let's just end the week by hitting Trump one more time. Again, don't turn on Zoran if you're watching this, Trump. But I do want to make fun of you a little bit. So let's jump into this. We know that Donald Trump's numbers are plummeting. We know that he's not doing well. But I don't want to just show you another poll. I want to show you something more interesting, which is evidence that some of the people who'd previously supported him are apparently getting a little bit embarrassed about it, because a certain percentage of them are now lying and saying that they didn't in fact vote for him. And the way that we found this out is Verisight and The Argument. These are pollsters. They conducted surveys of Donald Trump voters between August 2025 and February 2026. They had a lot of them, over 12,000. These same voters had been polled immediately after the 2024 election about who they voted for. So this is not self-reporting, I'm asking you who you voted for a year ago and just letting you, they did say it right after the election, and now they're being contacted again. And the two polls show that about 6% now deny ever having voted for Trump, despite previously having said they did it back in 2024. Among those voters, 2.7% now say, no, actually, I voted for Harris. 3.3% can't quite bring themselves to say that. They're just no, I didn't vote for any of them. I guess they voted for Bernie or something. I don't know. They voted for Roger Rabbit. But anyway, we have a little bit more data. About 15% of Trump's voters back in 2024 reported disapproving of his job performance, which is not nearly high enough, Jesus. But among those disapproving voters, 12.5% claimed they voted for Harris, while 11.8% said they didn't vote for either candidate. By contrast, those who approve of him only 0.9% say that they voted for Harris. So it's not like there's a certain percentage that are just misremembering it. It is based on them not approving of what he's doing right now. And so, that's not like a super high percentage or anything. I would like to see it be higher, but I've been wanting some of them to maybe be a little bit embarrassed by what they did. And 6% I say is a start. What do you think?
It's early, John. I promise you. It's almost like if you talk to people of a certain age, they'll tell you like every freaking boomer they've ever met is like, I was at Woodstock, and it's like we know that it's not mathematically possible that every single boomer that ever existed was at Woodstock. This is the reverse of that. In 20 years, nobody's going to admit to the idea that they voted for this filth and this trash and this what's basically a pockmark on our country's history. I promise you, it's very early on, John. The 6% is high, honestly. And I think as time goes on, more and more, it's gonna be the reverse Woodstock effect. More and more people will be like, no, I wasn't there.
I wasn't
I
at
didn't
Trump
vote
stop.
for that. Promise
I love
you
that. You know, and the funny thing is, at least like Woodstock, you can see the photos and like those crowds are big. When people someday are like, no, I wasn't part of it, they're gonna show that like first inauguration photo and everybody's be like, oh yeah, I guess nobody did show up. Maybe there weren't any voters. Like,
right, exactly.
Yeah, well, I hope, look, I care about truth and honesty. So on some level, somebody lying about who they voted for bothers me, but I will say you can have my approval to lie about it if you just start vigorously opposing Donald Trump now, okay? If you join on with us, then you can rewrite the past and you'll get 2 thumbs up from me. Anyway, that's gonna have to be it for the show today. Was great to have you here as always. Love your perspective. Thank you so much.
Love being on with you guys, and I'm actually about to do Indisputable next.
Nice.
And so, double dose of Waz today.
Awesome. Okay, go relax for 3.5 minutes and then have a good show.
All right, later, guys.
Thank you. For all of you out there, a couple things. One, I am gonna be doing members content. I'm gonna be recording an awesome set of interactions between one of the Pod Save guys and Stephen Miller, who is having this like try hard meltdown on Twitter. It was a lot of fun, so we're gonna run through that. Also, I'm not gonna be here on Monday. It's little baby Raina's first day at school, and I want to be available in case there's any problems. So the show will go on though. Yaz is gonna be leading it. JR will be there, so it's still gonna be the best damn day of the week. So definitely show up and show support for both of them. And also, I'm gonna be leading the first hour of the Young Turks later on today. So Jake's gonna be there as usual, but also Elliot Morgan is gonna be in studio. So it's gonna be a power panel. We're all gonna be in studio, which is always a lot of fun. So show up for that as well. For now, stay safe out there, stay sane out there, and we'll see you soon.